I think Aimsa is ready to.
Can you assign co-host, please?
Tidak, masukin co-host tuh.
Sebentar. Wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin sayyidina wa nabiyina karim Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, we gather here to again for our entrepreneurship series, Startup 101 series from IMSA Entrepreneurship Department. So inshallah today we are going to talk and discuss with actually brother Dr. Iqbal Latheef. He's one of the co-founder of TQ Automation LLC. I think that's the same company that you co-found with Dr. Iqbal, right, brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. So inshallah, we're gonna discuss and question and answer later about his knowledge and his experience. And I need to give you some background of Dr. Iqbal. He graduated from Texas A&M, PhD Chemical Engineering, 1998, and he's also received his MBA with honors from the University of Texas at Austin, Red McCombs School of Business. He's been in an industry for quite a long time, and I think the last one he's co-founding this TQ Automation LLC, which is maybe we can ask later, and maybe Dr. Iqbal can explain more about this a full service automation solution, basically for the energy and process industries. So maybe without longer spending time on the background, maybe Dr. Iqbal can explain later. Tafadhal, Dr. Iqbal, inshallah.
Unmute.
Brother Irwan, Dr. Iqbal seems the video is not showing up.
The video is showing up. The voice is not. Your
Let me check.
audio is not there, Iqbal. Okay. You on? Iqbal, your voice is not on.
It's still muted.
Okay.
I
Okay.
use phone and the video, so two separate.
Oh, the audio is coming from the video, the camera.
The audio is from phone.
Hello,
Separate.
can you hear me now?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm on my phone for the audio. Okay.
Okay.
So, Jazakallah khairan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa ala Rasulillah. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I'm very excited and very happy actually to see that you have entrepreneurship series within IMSA. This is a very important activity for us as Muslims to understand because I think many of us came to this country to study, do research, and then probably some of us had plans to go back home with our degrees. And, you know, the key element in building a society, building a community is the economics of that community. And in order to be able to, I don't like to use the word control because obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in full control of everything that we do. But in order for us as Muslims to implement and fulfill the duties and obligations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, doing and building businesses is one of the best ways to do that. So I'm very happy and excited to see that you guys are doing this. I don't see this among many Islamic organizations. So Jazakallah khairan for that. I see Mas Arif is with us. So nice to see you, Mas Arif. So I see the title of this is First Things First. And so my talk today will be focusing on starting a business and how do you think about what are the things that you need to think about as you start your business. As Brother Rida, is that proper pronunciation of your name, brother? You go by Rida?
Yes.
Yes. As Brother Rida introduced me, you know, some of the things. I want to say that my whole dream to start a business started when I was a student, actually. And what I saw in as a student, you know, we were trying to build a masjid in College Station at Texas A&M, and a small community. You know, this is back in the late '80s, early '90s, basically. And we wanted to collect $500,000. And it was a lot of money, and especially being student-run, student community, we didn't have a lot of funds. We didn't have any big donors to come and. I'm seeing a message here that. And so, you know, it dawned on me as I saw the world around how different businesses were sponsoring things at the university. If you walk on any university campus today, you will see, sorry, I lost my video.
I think you're disconnected.
It says the co-host has stopped your video.
Oh. Stop this video. Yeah.
So anyway, I'll continue to talk. You guys can, okay, there it goes. Okay, so if you walk on any university campus today, you know, you go and you'll see buildings and they'll have names on them. At Texas A&M, we used to have a building called Zachary Engineering Building, or the Blocker Building, or other names, right? And if you walk into some of these buildings, you will see this is the ExxonMobil Computer Lab. This is the, you know, Microsoft facility or lab, or this is the Dow Chemical Chemistry Lab. And you see all of these things. And I was wondering, who's going to come and sponsor the building of the masjid? Where is that going to come from? You know, what company? And then at the same time, I saw Hotmail, the Hotmail that we all use today. It's now owned by Microsoft. At that time, I'm talking about the 90s, it was a startup. They started the company, and then I believe in 96, 97, somewhere around this, the founders sold Hotmail to the Microsoft, $400 million. I was like, subhanallah, subhanallah. This is like unbelievable. Like, where is the, you know, Muslim Hotmail? Where is the Muslim Google? Where is this Muslim Microsoft? Where is this? You know, that we can generate this kind of money to do so much good in this world. So that was kind of the reason I wanted to start a business, and why I went from chemical engineering, and I did my MBA after my chemical. So the path is different. But I then, you know, finished my chemical engineering degree. I went and worked in a chemical plant, learned about manufacturing, which is not typical for a PhD. Usually PhDs go into research or product development or something like this. Then I went back to school and did my business degree at UT Austin. And then I went into consulting, because I studied how to start a business. What do I need? What skills do I need? And I learned that in order, if you want to build businesses like a Hotmail or something like that, where you want to go and get big money and sell your company, you probably needed an MBA from a top school. So that was my path. And alhamdulillah, I had a lot of mentors, the masjid and around, who helped and guided me. But I started Tiki Automation with brother Farwan in 2010. Actually, we started before that, but in 2010, we really went full time into the business. We were focused on oil and gas and building automation solutions for oil and gas. Initially, controllers. But what we learned along the way, it takes a lot of investment, a lot of capital to do that. And so we shifted things. We changed along the way. We did what's called pivoting. You know, if you think about what a pivot is, you know, you move from one direction to another direction as you see things more clearly. As you see some of the signs, okay, this is not working right, this is struggling, or this is going to be a hard path, let's find a different path. You pivot and you move. And that's kind of what we do in business. And you'll hear this term a lot when you think about and talk about and listen to businesses and business, especially startup businesses. I have a few slides I'd like to show. Is it possible that we can walk through those slides?
I think you can share. I make you co-host already, Dr. Iqbal.
Okay. It's saying disabled screen sharing.
the video, Rida. You have to make the co-host the video part, not the voice.
Oh yes, yeah, the video, please.
Because he has two things.
Oh.
So
You got it?
still saying disabled.
You have to make Dr. Iqbal as a co-host.
Yeah, the
one that has the pictures of him. Rida.
yeah.
Not the
Or-
picture, the one with the video.
Yeah, that has this.
Yeah, it shows my profile picture.
Okay,
Okay, yes, it's
I
working.
think it should be okay now. Somehow it's just it's all the way down
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, I can see it now.
Okay. All right. So,
What is the TQ automation logo?
oh, I didn't get it approved by the TQ board, so I guess I missed that part. So I wanted to go through a few things because I think some of these things, if you're starting a business, you may not think about, or you may not have a full appreciation for, and you may have questions around. So let me today. There's basically four things I want to talk about. One is legal structure. What are the different options? How do I choose? Building a team. And what that means. What do I need to think about as I build my team and choose team members to work with me? The business model. How do you really design your business? How do you put it together? And then selecting a board. When do you need a board? And then how do you go about selecting your board? And then we can, inshallah, have Q&A after that. So I think the first thing I want to start with is the why. Why do you even start the business? There could be many reasons. It could be simply to make money. I want to make money, right? I want to be independent. I don't want to have a boss and somebody I need to answer to all the time. I want to be able to do what I would like to do. Maybe you love to build things, build organizations, build entities, or leave a legacy. You want to build something and you want to leave it behind for future generations, your family or whatever. There are many reasons, and it's very important that you understand this why. And because, when the tough time comes, you will need to go back to this why. Why are you going through this pain, this struggle? Why are you suffering with not being able to write yourself a check, or not earning the income that you would like to earn? Or why are you banging your head against the wall trying to sell a product and it's not selling? Or why are you trying to get this partnership and it's not working? And all of these difficulties and challenges that come in starting a business, you have to go back to the why. Of course, for us as Muslims, the why should be to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That is always the why that keeps us on the straight path and keeps us focused, because we're always looking for the Jannah, right? We're always looking for the Akhirah, and we're always looking for the long term. But still, while we're in this dunya, we're faced with all of these fitna, right? All these challenges, all these tests. And knowing these, the purpose of your building a business is very important. Even when you have to explain it to investors, even you have to explain it to sometimes your family members. Knowing the why is very important. So I want to make sure that you understand and keep that up front as you think about a business that you're already working on, or as you think about starting your own business, inshallah. Okay, legal structure. Now, there are many options you have for legal structure. I'm only going to cover the most common ones here. And you can do there's a lot of material available for you online. Score.org is a nonprofit organization that provides information for small businesses. A lot of this information I got from them, but also some of this we studied in our MBA, and some of this I learned along the way. So the most common you hear about is called the C corporation. It is, when you see a company and it's like, if our company was TQ Automation Inc., INC, Incorporated, usually that's a C corporation. Most of the big businesses that you see, Microsoft, Exxon, Google, any of those, Adobe, Apple, all are C corporations. And they have, usually, they're the biggest. They provide the most access to funding because of their structure. But they have some challenges in the sense that there's basically, if you have a C Corp, if I had a C Corp and my company made profit, the corporation will pay taxes on that profit. And whatever money that I get from that business, whether that's salary or dividend, I also have to pay taxes. So it's a double taxation. We call it double taxation. And so a lot of small businesses avoid the C Corp. But if you are looking to get funding, especially from venture capital or private equity and those kinds of things, they will require you to be a C Corp. There's certain things about C corporation that legally it protects investors. The other thing that you need to think about also is, where do you want to incorporate? A lot of people incorporate in the state of Delaware because the business laws in Delaware are supposedly more favorable to corporations. But again, that's a choice, something that you will need to investigate further, depending on the size of your business and what you want to do. Limited liability corporation, or LLC, that is what we have. It's a liability of protection for owners. So any liability or anything that happens with the business, the owners themselves are not liable. So if the business has a debt, for example, or the business has some lawsuit, that lawsuit doesn't come back to the owners. So if the business has to pay $1 million, for example, then and the business doesn't have the million, they can't go after the owner in a limited liability corporation. There's some protection against the owner. Now, I don't think it's a full protection, but there is some protection against that. The other thing is taxes flow through to the individual owners. So, like in TQ Automation makes a profit, then that profit gets distributed to the owners, and the owners pay taxes, but the corporation doesn't pay tax. So there's only one level of tax in a limited liability corporation. You do have other challenges of self-employment taxes and things like that. One of the things that we learned kind of the hard way is we initially were paying ourselves what's called a guaranteed payment. In limited liability corporations, when you pay owners, you pay them what's called a guaranteed payment. And so let's say you're paying yourself $1,000 or $5,000, whatever the number is, it doesn't really matter. You would get that money, a check. But then at the end of the year, you would be liable for what's called self-employment tax, which is 15%. That's not income tax. That's just self-employment tax. So if you look at your check, if you work for a company today, you pull out your pay stub, you will see Medicare, Security, you'll see these things on there, right? Federal withholding, those kinds of things, right? And that tax, especially Medicare, Social Security, is 15%. Okay. Now your company pays 7.5%, and you pay 7.5%. But if you're the owner of the company, you're liable for both portions. So that's 15%. And so if you don't prepare for that, then at the end of the year, you have 15% self-employment tax, plus you're paying your income tax. So you need to be aware of how you structure your salary and things like that in whatever type of business you have. And then the third option here is an S corporation. It, as mentioned here, combines some of the features of LLC and C corp. So you can earn salary in an S corp. Again, taxes flow to the owners, and you have. But the issue here is you have a limited number of shareholders. And with an S corp, it's a lot more difficult to raise funding from investors. LLC, it's a little bit okay. C corp is the best. S corp is much more difficult. This is when you have several individuals, business, similar to a limited liability corporation, but each one is kind of earning his own salary from the business. It's just a different tax structure. And then the last one is sole proprietorship. It's a single owner business. It's easy to form. And then it's basically, as you file your regular 1040 taxes, you will see you'll have to put some additional information in there about your business earnings. And it's very difficult if you need to raise money from institutions. Institutions means like a venture capital or something like that. It's very difficult. So those are the corporations. The next thing I want to talk about is how do you build your business or build a business model? We hear a lot about business plan, building a business plan. Today, most people would recommend that you start with this framework here, which is called the business model canvas. You can, again, find this on the internet. It's very readily available. But it gives you a structured way to look at your business in different areas and kind of really try to understand your business. So, if we think about, let's start here at the bottom. Think about what are the revenue streams? What are the different ways you're going to make revenue? You could be selling products. You could be selling services. If you are an internet business, you may have, for example, advertising. You may have a YouTube channel where you're getting subscribers. There are different revenue streams that you could generate. You could have partnerships that generate revenue for you. You could have intellectual property that generates royalties. And so there's lots of different things, but it's very important that you understand what are those revenue streams, and then what are the cost structures associated with those revenue streams. So if you have a YouTube channel, for example, okay, what are the costs associated with that? You probably have some fees that you have to pay, maybe to make your videos or things like that. There may be other types of costs that you have that you have to pay to YouTube or to whoever. Maybe you want to pay some marketing costs to promote your channel. Similarly, if you're doing an engineering product or something like that, you're manufacturing, then you have manufacturing costs, you have raw material costs, you may have shipping costs, logistic costs, and those kinds of things. And then you would, the other, obviously, when you look at selling, look at revenue streams, you also want to look at what are your customer segments. What are the different types of customers you have, and how are they broken up? Maybe the customer segments, maybe by region, maybe by like level of income. Maybe you have like, let's think about a car brand, right? So they have the premium brands, right? Or Toyota, Toyota has Lexus, so that's kind of their premium brand. Then they have kind of their mid-range, which is a Camry or something like this. Then they have their kind of starter or entry level, which may be a Corolla. But then they have other brands, right? They have or other cars that they sell for different customer segments. And similarly, you may have different customer segments. And for each customer segment, you will have what's called a value proposition. What value, what problem are you trying to solve? Why does this customer segment look to you? What do they look to you for in terms of value? Whether you're solving a problem related to how they communicate, whether it's a problem related to how maybe health related, helping them with their health, helping them with their finances, helping them with their car, whatever. But then there's different things in terms of the value you bring. Okay, you are maybe an expert in transmissions. You are really good. That's the value you bring. Why is it different? And then the other thing is that why is it different from others? That's part of this value proposition. It's not just about the value you bring, but how is it different from others? And one of the things I mentioned here, don't be distracted by how others make money. When you think about revenue and customer segments and all of this, it's very easy to fall into the trap of just copycat. But it's very important if you want to build a successful business that you're not afraid to be unique and to find that, build on your strengths really, and find how your strengths can bring value to your customers. And then customer relationships. How do you work with your customers, whether it's face-to-face? Sometimes you may not even meet your customer. I mean, if you think about Amazon, for example, there's so many products that they sell. So many different people sell on Amazon. They don't even know their customer. The only way they interact with their customer is through a customer review or something like that. Sometimes you even want to call or contact them. The only way to contact is through email or chat. There's no physical voice call that you can connect with people. But you may have a different situation in your business. So what is the type of relationship? What are the channels? How do you go to your customer? Online? Is it brick and mortar, like a store? Is it, well, now we don't do mail order, but mail order kind of thing? Or even if it's online, what channels do you use? Do you use social media? Do you have your own website? And then what are the key activities that you focus on? What makes you distinct? You may be very strong in engineering. You may be very strong in your logistics. If you think about Amazon again, think about them, right? They're not necessarily strong in engineering. They don't have engineering, but they're very strong in terms of aggregating products and logistics, getting you products when you want them at a price, right? Because they're sourcing from so many different places that meets your needs. And so, they're focused on that. There are other companies that are focused on technology, other focused on customer service. Think about some places, you go back to them, maybe they don't have the best product, but their customer service is just so good. And they treat you like a person. And so you like that. Key resources. What are the resources you need to build your business? Whether that's engineering resources, whether that's financial resources, you may need an office space or warehouse space or all of those different types of things. And the last thing there is key partners. Not more than likely you can't do everything on your own. You are, whether it's you or a team of people, there's going to be areas and things that you're not very good at, or that there are areas where other people are much better than you. So who are those people, and how can you partner with them, and how can you work with them to help strengthen your business and grow your business? Okay, I've talked a lot. I don't know if there's any questions up to this point on either legal structure or business model. Do you want to take questions now, or do you want to move on and finish, and then we can have questions?
Just move on. Where's Rida?
Okay. All right.
I think we can. I'm sorry, my Linux hangs again. So yeah, I think we can continue if there's any. I don't see any question in the chat yet, but inshallah we can continue, Dr. Iqbal.
Okay. All right. So building a team. I put in here a few different things that you want to think about when it comes to building a team. you know, obviously the first thing we think about is the skills and capabilities of the team. Okay, and you know, you may be interested to see that, you know, okay, I understand technical skills. Okay, if I'm a product company, then I need engineering type of skills. I may need marketing type of skills, sales skills. Those are, you know, technical and somewhat operational, right? Operations may be more into like supply chain types of skills, things like that. The one thing that people often miss is administrative skills. What do I mean by that? So I started this presentation talking to you about legal structure and how that impacts, you know, your business from a tax perspective and liability perspective, insurances, and all of this. Investors, whether investors are you can get investors and things like that. Administrative is really a lot of the paperwork, and unfortunately, you know, business requires a lot of paperwork, and it's very important that you do it right. And so you need to make sure that you have somebody that can handle that administrative paperwork. Just this week, I was talking to one brother, and he had started his business, and he was struggling with his taxes. And the issue was he was not keeping track of, you know, money coming in, money going out, and categorizing it, paying his payroll taxes on time, you know, making sure that we're in Texas, so we have sales tax. So we've got to make sure that we're paying or at least filing for sales tax, even if you're running a business where let's say you're exporting equipment or whatever it is. So export usually is without tax, but you still have to file. You still have to file with the state that, okay, we made this much dollars. How much is taxable? 0 is taxable. Why is that not taxable? Because it was all export. And then what's my tax? 0. But I still have to report to the state of Texas that I generated this much in sales. Those are administrative type tasks. They're not technical, right? But somebody has to do that. Somebody has to keep in track. You know, every quarter you have to file your IRS tax statements for payroll. Every month you got to pay. Every month, or depending on your situation, could be every quarter. You got to pay your payroll taxes. You know, you've got now with this COVID situation, you know, you may have applied for a PPP loan or something like that. You've got to do the paperwork for all of that. There's lots of different types of paperwork, and so when you build your team, make sure that somebody on your team is going to be focused on the administrative stuff, because if you don't do that right, you can mess up the whole other stuff. Of course, you need the technical skills and the operation skills, but I think most of us, we think about that, we forget about this. Fit and alignment, skill fit, personality fit, business fit. What do I mean by that? Skill fit, obviously, you know, if I'm, you know, I have my MBA in our business. Irwan is my technical guy. He's the engineer. He really understands the engineering side of automation. Personality fit, right? You work together well, or you know each other. You know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you can work together. That's very important because you'll go through some stressful times in a business, and you really need to make sure that there's a personality fit there. Business fit is really that, okay, does that skill, that person fit with your business? And, you know, sometimes somebody may be a great person. They may have great skills, but that doesn't necessarily fit with your business. And so they may be a great advisor or a consultant, but not necessarily someone to be a part of your team. Then resources and support. How does that team member support you, or what do they bring to the table besides their skills and capabilities? Maybe They may have contact and network. Maybe they bring finances. They were able to bring people with money. They know people with money. Maybe they will be subject matter experts. They may not necessarily be part of your core team, but they're experts in a particular area that will be of benefit to you. But if it's core to your business, if that particular expertise is core to your business, you want them part of your team in terms of your management team. But there are areas sometimes you just need a subject matter expert in an area, but it's not necessarily core to your team, so they become like a consultant. So team here means not just your management team, but also the people who support you, your consultants, advisors, and things like that. And then contractors and third parties, having different types of support from those people, also part of your team. And then the last thing, and I think maybe the most important, is character and values. I should have looked this up before this meeting, but there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. It says if you want to know somebody, there's certain things that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. One is traveling with someone. The other that he mentioned, one of the other things that he mentioned was doing business with them. And a lot of times when you do business with people, you really start to understand. I know Irwan and I, we've done business with a lot of different people, and we start to understand them in a different way. When money comes into play, contracts come into play, when buying and selling come into play, it sometimes changes the way people behave, or the way at least you saw. For good and bad, Yani. I mean, we don't want to criticize anybody, but it tells you something about people that you learn about them. And at least in my mind, these are some of the things that I think are important, right? For obviously trustworthy and integrity. When you're in a business, there's so many times you hear about a business, it's running, and then somebody was, taking from the business without the others knowing, other owners knowing. That's not, really a good situation. But trustworthiness also means that you can trust each other to give feedback and say, okay, look, I don't think that's the right way, and we need to discuss this, or I don't like the way you did that, or somebody can come to me and say, I don't like the way you did that, and we should be able to have good conversation. In Islam we talk about nasiha, giving advice, right? And we have an etiquette for giving advice, right? The same applies in business, and you have to have an etiquette in the way you work with your brothers or your sisters in business. Resilience and patience. As I mentioned many times already, that you go through tough times, you need somebody who's going to be patient with you. You need to be patient, and your team members need to be patient. Humility. You will have success, inshallah, and you will have struggles. But when you do have success, very important to be humble. Don't get carried away with those successes and think that, it was because of, your brilliant idea or your brilliant product or, something like that. I was listening to a TED Talk, and he was talking about, what are the characteristics that make a business successful? What are the key things? And he said the number one thing is timing. Timing, the number one thing that makes a business successful or fail. And if you think about that, right? You think about products that we use today very, very often, right? But there was probably some version of that product 15 years ago, 20 years ago, but it failed. Why? And they say timing, because it just wasn't right. Maybe there wasn't enough, the network or the infrastructure wasn't there. The customers weren't ready for it. If you think about right now, we are sitting here on a Zoom call, and lots of things are happening with online learning. And you're seeing all these online learning businesses doing well. Zoom, the stock just going crazy the last week or two. Okay, what is that all about? Timing. All of a sudden the pandemic comes, everybody has to sit at home, everybody online. You know, it has almost nothing to do with Zoom's technology. Well, there was GoToMeeting before that. There was WebEx. There's Microsoft Teams. There's so many other online platforms. But nowadays, what do we say when we want to have an online meeting? Do you want to have a Zoom meeting? We don't say, do you want to have an online meeting? We say, do you want to have a Zoom meeting? Why? Because the timing of the situation is like that. So you have to be humble. Because timing is really from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That you happen to come up with that idea, that business at that time, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought all the different things in the path open for you to be successful. So humility is a very important thing. And the last thing is optimistic, right? You know, always have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always have hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless you if you have the right intention. Remember, starting with the why. You know, if you always starting with pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you can be optimistic that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let you down, that He will come with support. Just like He came with the angels in the Battle of Badr, He will come with support for you in those difficult times to help you with success and victory, inshallah. And the last thing I have is building a board.
Dr. Iqbal, there are some questions already coming in.
Okay.
Is it okay? Just 2 questions for now, and
okay.
Okay. One question is that one brother asked, many times when we want to start a business, we try to go by the book, financial resource, business plan, legal aspects, but this make us never start the business, and it's just an idea. Is that a good idea to just start and make improvement along the way? Any tips on that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. You know, there's you know, and this goes back to even like when you look at this team slide, right? There's something in here around the character and values about drive. It just wants to push, willing to take risk. A lot of times what happens, like, you know, as you're mentioning, people do the business plan and all of this, and then they get comfortable. One of the biggest problems that we have is we get comfortable. Okay, we get comfortable in our situation. And I know for Irwan and I, you know, we started the business in 2006, and we were working somewhere else. Each one of us, you know, working in big companies, doing well, alhamdulillah. And, you know, the circumstance became where, you know, in 2008, late 2009, Irwan's job situation was not so stable. And so we said, okay, well, maybe this is the right time. Maybe Allah's giving us a sign. And so we built a business. We didn't have an exact great business plan or anything like that. Yeah, we did do some things, but I don't think you should go with it just with nothing. You definitely have to have some ideas. I think it's probably a good idea to kind of map out a business model, Canvas template to understand. And you have to really understand your situation in terms of how are you going to feed your family? What's your situation, right? And how do you make those steps to free yourself so that you can start the business? I don't know, you know, every situation is different. But I do like the idea that you start with a plan and then you refine it, okay, over time, right? But you start with a plan. And it should be a good plan, not just, okay, hey, we're going to sell, you know, I don't know, computers. It should be more than that. But yeah, I can perfectly understand. And you need to understand also what's holding you back from starting the business, and see how you can tackle those things that are holding you back. Could be finances, could be, you know, maybe you have a situation where your son or daughter is about to go to college, and hey, again, it's a financial situation. Or maybe you're about to have a baby, and you have that situation. You know, your family situation is not stable. Lots of different reasons, and you need to really think about that. What's holding you back?
Okay. Shukran, Dr. Iqbal. There's one more question here. It's actually a couple of questions already coming in.
Okay.
About the competition, you said something about value propositions. And sometimes we
Yeah.
stuck on this value proposition, and we see the market right now have several players in the market. So we are sometimes not, brave enough to compete with with the bigger corporation than, we just start up, compete with the big companies. So how do you handle that kind of feeling?
Okay. So the first thing is you have to understand whether the market that you're entering is a market of few or a market of many. Okay. So right now, if you think about, let's go back to PCs, computers, right? There's very few players in computers, right? There's, there's Dell and there's Lenovo and HP and a few others, right? Asus, something like this, right? Not many. And then there's other products that there's hundreds of options and choices. So that's one thing you want to understand. But there's very few businesses where there's just one, okay? And feeling that you cannot compete. If you think about it, when we think about search, right now, when we think about searching on the internet, we all think about Google, okay? Well, back in the 90s, there was Yahoo, there was, I don't even know if there was a Google, but there was a whole bunch of others. I can't even remember some of them. But they were all different search engines. And at the end, one came out. And Google came out later. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're not the first, that you can't win. Actually, sometimes waiting allows you to see the market, see where the gaps are, and maybe a technology comes that helps you, or maybe you develop that technology that allows you to compete. Okay. The second thing against competing against larger players, this really depends on what you're trying to do. Okay. If you're trying to just take a niche, let's say the market is $1 billion market, which is a huge market, right? $1 billion seems like a huge market, but there's maybe 5, 6 players in this market, and each one, is about 200 million, 150 million, something like this. And you're like, wow, I don't know if I can compete with them. Well, there's probably things that you can do that those larger companies cannot do. And there may be niches that you can find that where you can play and be more successful than others. There may be customers that will be more willing to trust you than others. One of the things for us at TK Automation is, because Irwan had some customer relationships that from his previous days that allowed us to talk to certain people, and then they became our customers, and they left bigger companies to do business with us because they liked our small company that you could talk to us on the phone, you send us an email, we respond within the same day, we go and visit them. So those types of things. So don't be afraid to compete against larger companies, especially if you have something special to offer. And that could be, as I said, customer relationship sometimes is the big thing. Maybe you're able to deliver faster because you're smaller. So I would say, you really have to see what you offer and test it. That's the other thing that we didn't talk about here is how do you test a product or a business idea, and then see if that's going to be worthwhile to pursue.
Okay, then that's
okay.
Yeah, there is one more question before we go to the next one. This is related to the team building. So there is many cases that you hire somebody and you train them, and then they basically leave the company and start the competition. For example, the restaurant business, the chef, we teach them, the recipes and stuff, and then they left and start their own restaurant.
Yeah. Well, that happens.
That many times.
That happens. I think, first of all, you have to try to anticipate how that can work, and if you're bringing in someone and teaching them some of the inside information, does it make sense for you to make them part of your team? Give them ownership stake. There is also, this feeling that, okay, that's going to happen, and I think sometimes you definitely cannot prevent it per se, but it's how do you respond? And this goes back to, again, these characteristics that we talked about here in terms of patience and humility, and what can you offer your customers, even if someone takes your recipes. Okay, well, what more do you offer besides those recipes or those things that this person has walked away with? Can they deliver the customer service, or can they bring something else? And sometimes it's internal, but sometimes other people will copycat you. You see, okay, everybody sees Starbucks doing so well. Okay, let's open a coffee shop. Well, we see what is it called? Some shop doing well. Okay, let's open our own. We can do that. And people try to copy. But the question, so you have to constantly innovate. You have to constantly to improve. It's just like your iman. Your iman, and you have to continuously build your iman. You have to continuously work on it. You have to continuously refine it, continuously improve it, because shaitan is always coming to you. The same thing in business, competition is always going to come to you, especially when they see you start to make money. It's like, okay, well, if he can make money, I can make money. And so they will come to you. And so, I always think about my business, okay, and I always talk to everyone about this. Okay, how are we going to make this different? What are we going to do? What are we going to shift? Well, do we think this is long term? Do we think this kind of business is going to last forever? Like, if you're building your business based on this pandemic right now, okay, well, how long do you think this pandemic is going to last? If let's say you're making masks, okay, for maybe 6 months, maybe a year, then what? You have to constantly innovate, and it's hard. This is the hard thing about business. This is why, as Muslims, when you get into business, Irwan and I, we always talk to each other about this. It's like it gets us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we face this fitan constantly. People come to us, they seek our advice, and we joke about it all the time. It's like, brother comes to us, starts talking to us about our business, and says, I want to start something just like you. The guy lives right next door. It's like, okay, but that's part of, I guess, part of human nature, is to try to copy those who you think are successful. And I don't know if there's a great answer for you legally on that, but you can do this. Okay, legally there is something you can. What is called, make them sign a non-compete agreement. So what that does is that if they leave you, they're not allowed to start a company that does the same thing, or that has similar recipes to you, or if it's food, for example, or similar products to you. And so there are different things that you can do legally to protect yourself, and you may not necessarily have everybody in your company sign those, but there may be certain people that you kind of show them the secrets behind your business, and you may want them to sign a non-compete. And most of us who've worked in big corporations, we understand that we've all signed non-competes that says that whether you get fired or if you get laid off, or you decide to leave, you can't necessarily go to a competitor and do the same thing and bring the same ideas. sometimes there's things like that.
Thank you, Dr. Iqbal. So yeah, I think we can postpone the other ones later also.
Okay, this is the last slide, and then we can answer the questions.
Okay, sure.
So building a board. Not every company needs a board. You know, if you're small, few people, you may not necessarily build a board, but you know, as you grow or as you start getting into bigger markets or something, you may find that you need a board. Initially, from the legal point of view, the founders are the board. Okay, so if you have a founder, if you're a company of 2-3 people, that's the board. If you are just an individual, then you don't really need a board. You don't have a board. But it's important that, especially if you're looking to grow your business, and especially if you're looking to get funding, and you're trying to sell to big businesses, enterprises. Maybe you have an enterprise software solution, or something like this, like an SAP type of solution that works at a big business level. You would want to build a board, and you know the types of things you're looking for are, you know, you want board members who are going to bring expertise, know-how. They're going to fill gaps. Okay, you may want to get into online or social media, and you don't really understand that part of the business or that part of marketing. So you may want to bring somebody with that expertise to be a board member to help you grow in that area. They may have regional expertise. You may want to, you know, go to South America or something like that. That's a big market for you, and so you want to bring somebody who has contacts and networks in that area. They become a board member for you. The difference between a board member and a employee is usually a board member is not going to leave you, right? There's somebody who's going to stay. You give them some incentive to stay, and they're going to be an advisor to you. An employee, like previous question mentioned, right? They can be with you, they can join you, they can help you out, and then boom, they leave. So that's how a board member is different and maybe more beneficial sometimes. Alignment on objectives. Are they aligned with your objectives? Sometimes board members are looking for a short term. They may join you, especially if they put money in. They may require to be on the board, and they may be looking for a return on their investment. They may be looking for you to grow your business so that you can sell it, so that they can get their money back and a return. And timeline, you know, are they willing? You know, you may be building this business for the long haul. They may not be willing to or interested in being with you for that long haul. Again, support. What kind of support can this board member bring in terms of financial support? If they are if they are already an investor, maybe they have other businesses that can work with you. A lot of times, if you watch Shark Tank, you'll see the sharks say, you know, I can see how this will fit into my portfolio, and I have other businesses that will help you, right? Maybe you're selling electronic components, and some of the board members, other companies will buy from you. So now instantly you bring this person as your board member, and instantly you get 2 or 3 new customers because they're in that network or they're in their portfolio company or something like that. So those are different ways that board members can help you. And the last thing, obviously, it's very important to understand their character. How do they handle conflict? How do they handle failure? Would you hire them? Because these are people you're going to work with, especially in a small company. As you grow, you want to make sure that you're bringing in people that you're going to be able to work with, and that know how to handle failure and conflict, and not going to create drama and difficulty for you. Because that's the other problem with board members, okay, is that it's not easy to get rid of them if you don't like them. Okay, employees you can fire, right? Board members, doesn't work that way. Okay, so those are the challenges of the board. I think that's it. So it's open for Q&A. If you want to.
Yes, so I have a couple of questions here. For those who are joining us through the Zoom, you can raise your hand and I will call your name and you can unmute yourself. If you like to write just your question, you can just write question on the chat. I have one question from the YouTube here.
And
Bang Irwan, do you have anything?
no, it's fine.
Okay. So there's a question. Assalamualaikum. I'm Erwin from Bandung, Indonesia. How much is the world scale of startup in the US? I mean, in investment and product scale. I'm not familiar with the. Maybe you are familiar, Dr. Iqbal, on this.
What's the question again? How much is the worth?
He wrote the world scale of startup in the US. He means in the investment or product scale. Maybe the how much they allow to invest in the. I don't know. This is related to the international. I mean, investment coming from other country. I don't know the legality or the law of the US trade or investment.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand the question exactly, but you know, investors here in the U.S. are pretty flexible in what they can invest in and how much they can invest. I don't know if there's a restriction on how much you can invest. Now, if you're investing in a foreign company, there may be some laws around that. I know that at least, simply put, if you're transferring more than $10,000, then those kinds of transactions get tagged, and you have to report them. But that doesn't mean you cannot send more than $10,000. Obviously, companies do it all the time. But I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly. But as far as I know, U.S. investors are free to invest almost anywhere. There are certain countries, obviously, where you cannot invest. Cuba, I think, is one. Iran is another. Not sure. North Korea would be another. But you know, outside of that, investing, it's flexible.
Thank you, Dr. Iqbal. So another question is related to the pivoting. So if your company start meeting stumbling block or blocking issues that you cannot pursue from technological point of view, and you need to pivot around it, how do you recommend on this situation?
Oh, we have a lot of experience on that.
So,
yeah.
basically the technology issue, or they found out like maybe during the course of the execution.
Yeah. So okay. So technology can fail for many reasons. Okay. You know, one is the technology itself is not good. Okay. And if the technology itself is not good, you'll hear that from the customers. You know, the app crashes, or this is not working right, or this always is not working, or not helping me in this, or it's not doing what I expected to do. You know, and you have to evaluate those kinds of things to see, okay, whether you can fix those types of things. The other reason technology can fail is it's not big enough of a problem, right? I mean, you build a technology, solve a particular problem, and it's solving that problem, but that problem only is for a few people, right? So then the question is, are there things or features or that I can add to broaden the customer base, right? That more people, that I can solve more problems with the same solution. It may be a simple tweak, it may not really be a pivot per se, but it may be more of a enhancement on the existing product. You know, the other thing could be a funding situation, right? I don't have enough funds, maybe for development, maybe for marketing. Maybe my marketing not very strong in terms of getting the word out of my product. So really, it's, you know, you want to going back to the business model. You know, what are your customer segments, and how do you go and test with those people? A lot of times, what we are afraid of, and it goes back to the question that was asked earlier about, you know, what happens if somebody steals your idea and then kind of, or your secret sauce, your recipe, whatever it may be, and then goes and starts another business. And sometimes when we start technology businesses, we hold that information, that technology, and then we launch it. And then we're like, oh, nobody wants to buy it. Or it's, you know, and we wonder, and part of the reason is because we didn't do enough upfront market testing, because we were holding it back because we didn't want to release the idea. And, you know, this goes back to, you know, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to gather all the world to harm you, you know, if all the world gathers to harm you, they cannot harm you except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows. And if all the world gathers to help you, benefit you, they cannot benefit you if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow it, right? And similarly, if all the world comes with competitor products to kill your business, they cannot kill your business unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows it, right? And so we live sometimes in this situation of fear that we don't do enough testing, market testing, okay? I'm not talking about technology testing. A lot of times we do the technology testing, we test it. We have testers and we have test protocols and we have test procedures and we do all that testing. What we don't do is market testing. Customers really want this. Do they like this feature? Or do they don't? Oh, you know, what features do they like? What features would they like us to add? You know, will they use this? Is this something they'll use every day or once in a while, right? And so testing is very, very, very important to understand why a technology is failing. I'm talking about market testing.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Iqbal. So the maybe follow-up question is the how to do the customer validation on your product, because sometimes people see they send survey, and you know, if they have some apps application like Android apps or iPhone apps, they just give it for trial period. And how do you recommend for this customer validation?
Yeah, I think there's a nice book called Lean Startup that is a good book for these kinds of questions. Called Lean Startup, and he talks about technology and how do you build technology and do these kinds of testing and do these kinds of customer validation. But what you do is, you know, they have what's called the MVP, which is a minimum value product, right? So you build something that is has the core of your technology, the core of your solution, and you can, you know, the easiest thing to do is to test it among your closest friends, right? People that you know, your family, you know, maybe people in your masjid or in your halaqah or whatever it may be, and so you test it with certain groups, and once you've got that, then you can go to a broader group. You know, definitely putting it on the you know, the iStore or Apple Store or Google Play or whatever is a good option, but there's a procedure to that, right? You got to get it tested. Google has to approve it or Apple has to approve it, and then it has to go through some certain process, and then it gets put there. And most apps that are out there, you know, they're lost in the ocean of apps. So, you know, it may not get a lot of attention, but it's a good way to kind of get it available and see. But you know, that's what I would do in terms of, you know, you may even go to certain, like if you know, let's say you're building an app for education, you may go to a school and ask some teachers to try it out. You may ask maybe your child's school. You may go to a smaller school, a private school, or something like that. If it's an app for, you know, depending on what it's for, but you may find a certain test market, you know, that you can go and test it and try it out and see. And, you know, that's probably a very good way to get some validation. And then if that works well, or you get some good feedback, you go tweak it a little bit and you broaden that. Maybe you go to more schools or more test markets, and maybe you get it on Google, you know, the Google store, and maybe you start advertising, maybe on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram. So that, again, looking at what's your target market. If you have kind of a younger market, you may be looking at Instagram or Snapchat for your marketing purposes. If it's older market, you know, most older folks are on things like Facebook. So.
Okay, Dr. Iqbal.
And you
Thanks.
you may even post images on those social media and get people to
Explore prototype or something.
explore prototype.
Okay, there's a question about lawyer. So is it a good idea to hire a lawyer for a startup, or should we give the lawyer some percentage, because sometimes the lawyer, not the sometimes, most of the time lawyer is so expensive.
Yeah, lawyers. You know, when we started, we had this big dream. And we went out and we hired a pretty expensive lawyer. And he was very great to talk to. But he was very expensive.
The most expensive coffee that we ever tasted in town.
Yeah.
No, but go ahead, Iqbal.
Yeah. And the idea was, okay, we want to, you know, we were thinking, you know, that our business is going to grow and we're going to get calls from, you know, GE and Exxon and this and that. And we need to have somebody experienced and, you know, somebody who can really talk the talk with these big guys, you know. Of course, unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way.
But I mean, I think Iqbal, what we need to tell them that we need the lawyer, a good lawyer, but you present your idea, and most of the time, like our lawyer, he went down and because he looked at our proposal, they look at our company profile, and they said, okay, I believe in you. Okay, I'm not going to charge you as what I charge a big corporation. I'll give you some leeway, but if you becomes big, then I'll be your lawyer. So that's kind of stuff that we made deal with him, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can do those kinds of things. I think, you know, some of the bigger law firms will be hesitant just because those lawyers. Well, it depends. You know, those lawyers, they have just like in any professional service company, they have a requirement on how much money they have to bring in, and they have to charge whatever it is, $500, $600, $800 an hour. And so that becomes very expensive for you as a startup company. But there are many cheaper options and very good options. There are certain things that you really want to have a lawyer involved in, especially if you're negotiating an important contract or an investment contract. What we did is, you know, we had lawyers and draw up or review some of the agreements and documents that we had. And then once they did that, we used that document for all of our other types of things. For example, an NDA. We had an NDA written by a lawyer, and we then used that NDA, and reviewed it. Of course, he charged us, but then we used that NDA again and again, right? And a lot of times when you negotiate, people will come back to you and say, hey, I don't like this in the NDA, or I don't like this in the contract. And you may go back to the lawyer, you may not. One of the best advices a lawyer gave to me, okay? And he said, look, at the end of the day, you're not going to get everything you want. At the end of the day, there's going to be some level of trust that you have to go with. And so if you nitpick on every little thing and you ask a lawyer, you're going to end up paying a lot of money, and it may not be very beneficial. So I would say, yes, there are certain things that you do want to have a lawyer involved with. I think there's some online things like LegalZoom and some of these things that have certain legal, cheaper legal options. You may use those, but when it gets to serious stuff, you definitely want to have a lawyer. And I'd ask around. You can, a decent lawyer is going to cost you anywhere from probably $300 to $500 an hour. But it's not bad to have one available to you. It's just you may not use them.
I mean, in 2010, our lawyer cost double than that.
Yeah. Yeah, but those are kind of the lessons learned.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Iqbal, Bang Irwan. So there's another question here about this is we still have a long time to go for our startup. For us, the one that just really small companies, should we have a business plan ready for looking for investor? I mean, do they require for business plan, like a formal business plan, or the business canvas model is enough to show them our startup?
Yeah. So it's a lot of times it's dependent on the investor. Usually, what I would do is I would take the template, business canvas template, and I would put it into slides. I would not show it as that business canvas template. I would put it into slides. You'd also want to include there an introduction on yourself, why you are the best person to run this business, what unique things you bring to the table, or you and your team. You probably include your contact information and a website and all of those kinds of things. And I think you really need to think about whether you need an investor. It really depends on how big you want to grow and where you want to take the company. Again, going back to the Shark Tank example, you see a lot of times in Shark Tank, the sharks will look at a business and they will say, this is not investable. We use this term, it is not investable. Or this is a lifestyle business. Okay. What does that mean? That means the business may be generating $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in profit every year, maybe $500,000, maybe even $1 million in profit every year. Okay, and you have, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 owners, and each one is making a good amount of money from this business. Okay, now for most of us, $1 million a year in profit seems like a lot of money. Okay? But for an investor, especially if you ask an investor to put in, $500,000 or $1 billion or whatever you ask them to put in, they're looking for 5, sometimes 10 times their money. How do they get that? So some businesses don't grow to such a level that an investor can get his or her return, right? So before you think about investment, think about what's the goal, right? how much money do you really need to get to the goal? Can you get that money through sales, through your own sales, and then just reinvesting your profits? Can you get it from maybe some small investors, maybe partners, maybe you and your team can pool some resources and get that money. You may not necessarily have to go for outside investment, but if you do, most investment is through kind of friends and family and what they call angel investors, individuals who are wealthy and they are willing to put in maybe $100,000 or $200,000 or $50,000 or something like this, and they're not very sophisticated, meaning they're not looking for a huge business plan or a lot of documentation and all of this, but they're smart people and they want to see that you have a clear idea, able to present it, and that you and your team have the skills to execute, to make it happen.
Okay, Dr. Iqbal. Thank you, Dr. Iqbal. So there's one question from the youth. How we start building the entrepreneurship skill for the youth in the Muslim community?
Yeah. So as a youth, you are probably in one of the best positions and best times to be an entrepreneur. And the reason I say that is that almost all of you probably walking around with some sort of phone, right? And today, how much business is happening through this device, right? Whether people, I know lots of young people running Amazon businesses, right? YouTube channels, making videos or this or that, getting subscribers, coming up with innovative ideas of how to use technology, how to use apps, providing different services. Lots of these things that we see nowadays that we kind of take for granted started by teenagers. You think about Facebook and things like that, started by people in college, right? It was initially started to use as a communication tool in college. What I would suggest or recommend is you kind of explore different things. You find things that are troubling or difficult for people, right? It's business is all about solving problems. Whatever product or service you bring to the table is solving a problem for somebody, okay? And the question then becomes, what problem do I want to solve? Or what problem have I identified? Okay? And when you find those problems, and sometimes the problems are things that you face right now, maybe your parents face, your friends face, and you start seeing, okay, is that more people are facing this problem? How many people are facing this problem? And then seeing if you can develop a solution for that. The other thing is, like I said before, is there something in the market that is growing that you can establish a business with? If you go to Amazon right now and you do a search for, I don't know, masks, you'll see lots and lots of different options, right? You do a search for chargers or headphones or something like this, you'll see lots and lots, right? Now there may be 2 or 3 or 5 they're doing really, really well, but it doesn't mean the others are not making money. And the question is, how can you crack into a business like that? What can you do? What can you do unique? Maybe it's marketing. Maybe it's something you can do around creating a video that goes viral. Maybe it's something around pricing or something like this, or logistics, whatever. Different schemes to give discounts and market your product. There's lots of different things that you can do. But my advice to young people is search for problems to solve. Search for problems to solve. And then try to solve them. Don't just sit. Remember, going back to the earlier question, sometimes we have a business idea and we just kind of sit on it. We may write our business plan, we kind of sit on it. No. Search for it. Try to solve it. And if that doesn't work, move on. Right? This is the type of life we live in now. So much rapid change. Boom, 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 boom. You can have, one thing working, it doesn't work, boom. Okay, move on, next one. And inshallah, you will discover something that works.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Dr. Iqbal. This is very useful tips and information and knowledge sharing. So yeah, inshallah, we will have more on this series, Dr. Iqbal. We call it Startup 101 series.
Okay. Okay. Very
So
good.
we try to encourage in our communities and also Muslim, especially the Indonesian Muslim in America, try to get involved in this entrepreneurship initiative. So especially during this COVID pandemic time like this, many people lose their jobs and they start thinking about starting their own business from home, and so this is the right time for us to encourage people to learn about this, either for their own families or their own self, or for later on if they want to pursue another endeavor. So so I think it's already 1 hour 30 minutes. So do you have anything to say to our audience, Dr. Iqbal, before we close for this session?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall it's business is a great thing. Get involved with, because it has many rewards, has many challenges. Okay, but I also know that business is not for everybody. Okay, so you have to really check yourself. Know yourself and evaluate your situation, and always look for problems to solve. And then really the last thing I would say is don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of failure. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send you through different paths until He gives you success, right? And we know it from the seerah, and we know it from Islamic history, and we know it from other stories. A lot of people that went through lots of difficult times before they achieved success. Success doesn't come just like that. It takes time, and I believe truly in my heart that if you have good intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring you that success. Okay, and maybe the last thing is sometimes success doesn't look like the way you think it should look. That's the other thing I want to mention, is that I am so thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every single day about my situation and what I'm able to do. And I would never tell you that, my business is so successful and we're going to go public and we're making millions of dollars and all of this. That's not the case. And we know, and everyone knows the struggles that we've gone through. But everything is a learning opportunity, and I just feel like I've become much more blessed and humble because of this opportunity. So don't think that whatever success is the way you think it's going to be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has something for you, inshallah, and don't be afraid to take a chance.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Iqbal. It's very good suggestion and advice for all of us. inshallah, we're gonna have more session on this with Dr. Iqbal as well. We plan to have a virtual muktamar this December, Dr. Iqbal, and one of the plan is to have some pitch competition.
Oh, yes, yes, I heard about this before.
Yeah, so Bang Irwan, probably Brother Irwan can tell you something about it. Basically, we want to start before virtual muktamar the exercise or the so people can practice. Maybe
Sure.
you and Brother Irwan can be a judge, or on the at least the business canvas model, whether it's feasible or not, and the plan to the pitch basically. So inshallah, we're gonna plan for that, and also other series related to the finance, how to finance the startup, and different aspects that you explain.
Yes,
And
yes,
also
yes.
from maybe from Islamic perspective or motivation. So for us, for different situation, how we make our faith to Allah in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trust Allah about the situation. So so inshallah, we're gonna close to our today's session.
I just want to add something.
Oh, Bang Irwan, go ahead, Bang Irwan.
Just want to add something for Brother Iqbal. Brother Iqbal is involved in the Indonesian community since early 90s.
MashaAllah. 90, that means during MISG then.
He used to be the mayor of Depok, and he knows, basically he's one of his students in the Quran studies and stuff like that with Brother Nur Mahmoudi, and also close with Brother Arif Budiman and a lot of our IMSA brothers early in the days. So he's familiar with them pretty well. Rudy, Awan, Dodi, Brother Dodi, and stuff like that, a lot of them. So anyway, and he's been visiting Indonesia for a few times. And I teach him a lot of dirty language, Indonesian dirty language. I teach them at the other side of the equation, or corrupted him. So that's a bit,
Latheef, all the good stuff you told me, he wiped it away.
But Arif's
Muted?
Muted, yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so inshallah, we're gonna contact you again, Dr. Iqbal. I hope you don't mind to be involved with our entrepreneur group here.
Yeah, inshallah, no problem.
Yeah, we'd like to thank you so much for the opportunity for coming here with us, and hopefully we can continue with our group. Bang Irwan is the manager of this group, inshallah.
Okay. Alhamdulillah.
So okay, let's close our session today with Kafaratul Majlis and Suratul Asri. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illal ladzina amanu wa amilus solihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr. Jazakallah khair again, Dr. Iqbal.
Wayyakum. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you again. Thank you, Bang Irwan. Inshallah, I'll talk to you.
I think the entrepreneurship team can they stay on, or?
Yeah, that we have Irfan, Teddy, and that's it. I think Junaid still on the he's still driving